I'm not oblivious to seeing that, well, the results aren't great, but I've always kind of been good at looking below and saying, is there the stuff there that I need to see for us to continue to grow? And particularly at that time, I really felt strongly that, the following year we would be a force, absolutely. I didn't know whether we'd win it, obviously, because to come from where we did to win it is pretty extraordinary, but I was confident that, we'd make some major inroads, and I feel the same way now. I think the underlying stuff that I look for is there. Do we have gaps? Absolutely. Is it surprising? No. But that's hard to sort of outwardly explain to people who kind of rightly or wrongly are just looking at the results and saying, well, with Yokohama we finished, 15th or 16th. How are you going to win the league the following year? I would have sounded like even crazier than I do now. But I believed at that time that we were in good shape, and I believe at this time we're in good shape.
It sounds like back then you were pretty confident in everything then. I mean, has that experience just solidified that confidence when it comes to being?
Yeah, I mean, but again, the confidence only comes if I see things that, are kind of reflective of what I want to see below the surface, and I do. I think there's a lot there, a lot of encouragement for us there in terms of where we're heading as a team. I really believe that. But some of that won't come to the surface until we fill certain gaps. It'll stay below the surface, and we're going to have some, fluctuations and some volatility in our growth. But as we continue to fill those gaps, I think when it does come together, it'll come together really quickly. Is what kind of I believe.
Just finally, Son's been a fantastic captain for you this season. He scored a hat-trick obviously against Burnley earlier this season. I think he's got a year left on his contract, albeit potentially with an option. You mentioned last week that some good players might have to go. I'm presuming that Son's one of the players that you're going to build this team around?
Geez, that's a huge leap for you, mate. What a bold prediction. That Sonny will be part of our future. Yeah, no, he's going to be part of our future, mate. Yeah, that's all right. Thanks, mate. Matt? Yeah.
You've rotated your central midfielders around quite a lot the last few years.
Yeah.
Which is in quite stark contrast to earlier in the season when you were winning a lot of games, where it's basically Salah and Basuma through a lot of the wins.
Yeah.
I just wondered why that was. Have you had doubts around the midfielders, or people start to perform better and therefore you want to see more of them?
A little bit of both, I think. I mean, I thought Biss was outstanding against Liverpool last game. I think he's back to sort of his levels. But again, I thought before that he'd hit a bit of a flat spot. Similar with Matters. Pape, when he came back from African Nations, wasn't nearly at the energy levels he was earlier in the year, and part of it was me kind of, I wanted to see Bentancur. Obviously Holberg got some opportunities. Gio to a lesser extent. It's, I've said before, I need to find out as much as I can about where we're at as a squad. But some of it was reflective of just performances and us sort of, me looking for the right sort of combination in those areas, for the challenges we had. But like I said, I definitely Biss and Pape are now back, I think, to the levels they were earlier in the year for sure. I think when they're at their best, it does give us a little bit more of a fluency through that midfield.
And just with you saying that, you have taken the chance to look at a few of the midfielders, maybe some other players in other places. If there was a cup final tomorrow that you were in, would you know your best team?
Yeah. Be the one that
you've seen enough.
Be the one that I pick, mate, every time. So I think I don't think I'd be very surprised if maybe there are, but I've never gone in with the notion of who my best team is, because I just think you're talking about a cup final. It's usually won by a squad of players, not just a starting 11. So if we're in a cup final, I'd know who my team I think I'd win. But I don't. As I keep saying, I think we've got a long way to go. So we're nowhere near the levels we need to be to really compete at the levels I want us to compete. So invariably that means that there's going to be a little bit of sort of exploration from me as to who fits, who doesn't.
And just finally from me, your yourselves and actually Villa are also a good example. Probably peaked earlier in the season and now sort of grinding to the end. Is there a skill to preparing the team and the squad to peaking at the right time? You know, we see City every year.
Yeah.
The ends are unbelievable. Is there a skill and things you can do with the squad to prepare
Yeah.
them to peak at the right time?
Yeah, it helps if you've got a strong squad like City have. That kind of helps you. But yeah, it is. I don't know if it's a skill, but I think there's a learning in there if you can, and I think that comes through experience of players understanding the rigours of competition at this level and the demands of it and getting used to that. So, you know, I think for us, you know, we've had a lot of players this year who kind of, this is their first real experience of Premier League football at this level, you know. Vicario, Van der Ven, Destiny, even Pape didn't play much last year. Some of them, you know, like Brennan at a bigger club. So all these kind of things, I think, you know, for them, it's going to be a great sort of learning experience and building of resilience for years going ahead that, you know, you can't have a real drop-off at any stage. You need to maintain that. So some of it I just think is, you know, as you see players mature, I think squads mature as well. You know, if you can keep a core of players together season after season and kind of build on success, then I think they learn as a group to maintain levels through a year.
And we've asked you this before, but it still seems pertinent. Do you care if you're in the top four or not? And have you given up?
Oh, mate, you really think that's a harsh term, give up. What does that mean? That I come in here at 12 o'clock, have a latte and then go home and just let the guys train? I mean, I don't give up in anything, mate. I'm here fighting tooth and nail every single day for everything I can get for this football club because that's my responsibility. I would not give up on any cause, even the most lost of causes, because then I'd be abstaining from my responsibility. So I want us to finish the season strong. I want us to try and win 3 games of football and see where that takes us. I'd never said that I didn't care about finishing top 4. What I said was that finishing top 4 does not mean we're going to be the team I want us to be next year. That's not what's going to define us. So I don't give up, and I'd be surprised if anyone in my position at this level would go in with anything other than 100% commitment to fight for everything, because if you don't, invariably you fail.
It's just that there is this theory, and again we've asked before, that in terms of what you develop in Champions League might be a bigger league for you than the Europa League.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that, but it doesn't mean you don't want to finish as, you know, as high as possible and get into the best possible competition. But that, I guess, was my point, was that finishing 4th and getting to the Champions League does not make you a Champions League club, in my opinion. It just gives you an opportunity to be in there. To me, to be a Champions League club, what I mean by that is at that level requires more than just finishing 4th in 1 year, as far as I'm concerned. It means, and do I believe right now we're a Champions League football club? No, we're not. That's my honest belief. I think we need, as I keep saying, we've still got work to do. But that doesn't mean I didn't want us to make Champions League. With that's self-defeating in terms of what I'm trying to create. But had we made Champions League, or should we make Champions League this year and finish 4th, it isn't going to change my view about where we're at and what we need to do in the summer. And, you know, that's still sort of real clear in my head.
Can I also ask, just, when you talk about scrutiny, the Premier League being a little bit different, is there a good example of that?
This room, mate, you know.
Is there an example of that doesn't include this room?
No, but in terms of the interest there is in it. So I mean, in Japan or in Scotland, the press conferences were a lot smaller. So I think you guys are reflective of the interest in the game. Like, there's so much more sort of platforms now. I mean, now more than ever, I guess, because they're not just the official platforms. There's the unofficial platforms that are just as vocal. Where, like I said, everyone watches the Premier League. Doesn't matter where you are. I'd hazard to guess that, you know, you guys aren't always following the J League, but in Japan they're following the Premier League. You know, everyone watches Celtic Rangers. Maybe they don't always watch the whole of the Scottish Premiership, but everyone in Scotland follows stuff down here. So that's all I mean. I mean, it's the most visible competition, sporting competition in the world, I believe. So when I talk about scrutiny, I just mean that there are physically a lot more eyes on it. Therefore, there's a lot more opinion on it. Therefore, there's a lot more scrutiny around that as a consequence.
I'll finish with John, please.
Do you think the criticism that's come your way in the last 4 games has been harsh then?
No, I think it is what it is. I've never measured kind of, because as I've said all along, it doesn't change my approach. I feel that, you know, whether it's supporters, whether it's people who are following the game, whether it's people who analyse the game, have a right to have a say. And if they feel that I'm somehow falling short or I'm not sort of performing my duties in the right way, or if I've made mistakes, then I think they're allowed to say it. But I'm also allowed to not pay any attention to it. Not because I don't respect it, but I just don't think it's relevant to me. And the reason I keep saying that is because, and I always kind of temper my kind of, if I do hear of anything that comes my way that, you know, is less than complimentary, I always kind of sit back and go, at the same time, whoever's making that opinion or making that assumption doesn't have all the information I have. So I'm always dealing with all the information. So what may seem illogical from the outside to me, you know, is very logical, but you're not to know that. But if people want to criticise, if people want to question, I think that's their right. It doesn't affect me. And it certainly doesn't sort of change what I'm, sort of my approach and what I'm trying to achieve. And at the same time, plenty of people are saying good things about me when things are going well. So, you know, I can't turn around and say, well, no, don't criticise me, but then accept, you know, you've got to deal with both. And even when they were saying good things about me, I wasn't paying attention there either. So I kind of... Look, I mean, you know, we mentioned Japan, but it was 4 years of bliss for me. I didn't understand the language, couldn't read the papers, didn't understand TV. I just assumed everyone loved me, mate. So it was a beautiful existence.
It's a very hysterical place at times in the Premier League.
Yeah, but that's all right. But that's... I love that, mate. And you've got to understand where I've come from. I crave this. Like, I was in Australia, and irrespective of what I achieved there, it was never going to barely raise a ripple in general society because of, you know, and all I wanted was attention. Not I should reframe that. Yeah, exactly. Put it this way: the right sort of attention, where everything I did was scrutinised. So, and if I happen to be successful, well, that means actually I've made an impact. You know, that's who doesn't want that? Or if I'm not going well, okay, people care about that as well. So I love that, but I can see how, you know, if you've been in it for a very long time, it can become fairly, you know, draining and wearing, particularly for managers today. I can see that, you know, where you're kind of, irrespective of what you may or may not have done, you're constantly, you know, that scrutiny is always there, the pressure's never off, there's always somebody under the spotlight, and after a while you might go, I don't know, maybe Jurgen falls into that boat, you go, mate, I've had enough now, I can understand that, but that hasn't been my sort of existence up till now, so I love it, so, but, you know,
What's the most extraordinary thing you've seen written about you or said about you that make you go, wow? Where's that come from?
Yeah, I don't want to say. I'll tell you why I don't want to say, all right? Because, you know, when I'm all said and done, and I'm going to write a book because I got some cracking stories, but it's just how sort of, without using the sort of the wrong word, how sort of repetitive some of the things have become in my career of me having sort of answer the same sorts of questions along the way, and that that cycle doesn't seem to change at no point, and it kind of, it still surprises me that you know, that angle is still very, very the very much the prevalent one, even though, you know, like I said, it's kind of been, you know, rinse, recycle, repeat for me a lot of my career, and it's been the same here this year, where a lot of the questions, I think, I think it was Charlie that might have asked me. He said that, you know, something along the lines, do you allow your players to shoot or something? And I had that question. I was at Brisbane Roar because we kept passing it and with tiki-taka and all that. And do you let your players shoot the ball? And I remember when he said it to me, I think I smiled because I've just gone back 24 years, you know, which is fair enough. I get it, because for most people it's new, but for me it's just, yeah, it's been an interesting kind of journey, mate.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you, guys.